The fatal curiosity. Commander Vextor of the Krellian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Sovereign's Pride, his 4 arms crossed in contemplation. The massive view screen before him displayed an impossible sight, a human warship, apparently abandoned, drifting in the void between star systems. His crystalline eyes narrowed as he studied the vessel's profile. Analysis complete, Commander, Lieutenant Zakhar reported, her tentacles dancing across the control interface. The ship appears to be of Terran origin, designation unknown. No life signs detected. Power systems are minimal but stable. Vextor's primary arms uncrossed as he leaned forward. The Krellian Empire had encountered humans before, primitive creatures who had somehow mastered faster-than-light travel despite their biological limitations. They were clever, certainly, but hardly a match for the might of the Krellian fleet. "How long has it been drifting?" Vextor asked, his voice resonating through the bridge's atmosphere. "Uncertain, Commander. The stellar drift patterns suggest anywhere from 50 to 500 of their years. The hull shows signs of extensive battle damage, but..." Zakhar paused, her skin patterns shifting to indicate confusion. "But what, Lieutenant? The damage patterns are inconsistent with any known weapons technology. It's as if the ship was struck by something that doesn't exist yet." Vextor's interest peaked. The Krellians prided themselves on their technological superiority. If the humans had developed new weapons, the Empire needed to know about them. "Prepare a scanning array. Full spectrum analysis. I want to know everything about that ship before we board it." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. The Sovereign's Pride maneuvered closer to the derelict vessel, its massive scanning arrays coming online with a low hum that vibrated through the deck plates. "Initiating deep scan," announced Science Officer Trelvar, his 6 eyes focused on the readouts scrolling across his station. "Penetrating outer hull. Analyzing internal structure." Wait. His skin suddenly flushed a deep purple, the Krellian equivalent of alarm. "Report," Vextor commanded. "Commander, the internal architecture. It's impossible. The ship's interior doesn't match its exterior dimensions. According to these readings, the vessel contains approximately 17 times more volume than its hull should allow." Vextor approached the science station, studying the data himself. The readings were clear, yet defied everything they knew about physics. Could it be a sensor malfunction? "Negative, Commander. All systems are functioning within normal parameters. The ship itself appears to be folded somehow. Spatial distortions throughout the structure." The tactical officer, a veteran warrior named Krentak, spoke up. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the ship's core. They're fluctuating in patterns I've never seen before. It's almost as if..." He was cut off as every screen on the bridge suddenly flickered. For a moment, they displayed not the derelict ship, but something else entirely. Star charts showing constellations that didn't exist, battle plans written in a script that hurt to look at, and timestamps that were dated decades in the future. Then, just as suddenly, everything returned to normal. "What was that?" Vextor demanded. Trelvar's tentacles trembled as he worked his console. "Unknown, Commander. For 2.7 seconds, our systems were receiving data that shouldn't exist. The information was tagged with temporal markers indicating it originated from our own future." A chill ran through Vextor's exoskeleton. Time manipulation was theoretical at best, a subject of academic speculation rather than practical application. Yet here was evidence suggesting the humans had somehow mastered it. "Intensify the scan. I want to know everything about their temporal technology." "Commander," Zakhar interjected, "increasing scan intensity could destabilize whatever systems are still active on that ship. We don't know what we're dealing with." Vextor considered this for a moment, then made his decision. "The risk is acceptable. The Empire must have this technology. Proceed." The scanning arrays surged with power, penetrating deeper into the mysterious vessel. Data flooded their systems, schematics that rewrote themselves as they were observed. energy readings that existed in quantum superposition, and most disturbing of all, crew logs that seemed to be addressed directly to them. Commander Vextor, Trelvar read aloud, his voice shaking. By the time you read this, it will already be too late. Welcome to the Persistence. We've been waiting for you. The bridge fell silent. The message was dated 3 days in the future. How is this possible? Krentak growled. How could they know we would be here? Before anyone could answer, the derelict ship stirred. Lights began to flicker along its hull, not randomly, but in precise patterns that seemed almost like a countdown. Deep within its twisted structure, ancient systems hummed to life. Sir, I'm detecting a massive power surge, the tactical officer reported. The ship's main reactor is coming online. Energy levels are climbing exponentially. Shields up. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Vextor ordered, but even as he spoke, he knew it was futile. Whatever trap they had triggered, it had been set long ago, waiting patiently for someone foolish enough to look too closely. The human ship's hull began to ripple like water, its damaged sections flowing and reforming. What had appeared to be battle scars revealed themselves as deliberate modifications, each one precisely calculated to draw in curious observers. Commander, the ship, it's scanning us back, Trelvar whispered. But the data stream, it's not going into their systems. It's going into ours. Warning klaxons blared across the bridge as Krellian systems began to malfunction. Not randomly, but with terrifying precision. Navigation locked onto a course toward the human vessel. Weapons systems powered down. Even the escape pods sealed themselves. Cut all connections. Shut down the scanning array. Vextor roared. I can't, sir. The controls aren't responding. The ship, our ship, it's no longer under our command. On the main view screen, the human vessel completed its transformation. Where once there had been a battered derelict, now stood a sleek predator of impossible geometries. Its hull seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, damaged and pristine, ancient and newly built, there and not there. Words appeared on every display screen throughout the Sovereign's pride. You wanted to understand our technology. Your wish is granted. Welcome to your first lesson in temporal warfare. Class is now in session. Vextor felt his heart sink as understanding dawned. They hadn't found an abandoned ship. They had found a trap. One designed specifically for species advanced enough to detect its anomalies, but not wise enough to leave them alone. All hands, prepare for emergency protocols, he commanded, though he suspected it was already too late. We're about to learn why the humans call their ships names like Persistence. As the Sovereign's pride drew inexorably closer to the transformed human vessel, Vextor couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere, someone, human strategists were smiling. They had scanned a human warship, seeking to steal its secrets. Now they were about to discover why that was the last mistake they would ever make. The trap had been sprung, and there was no escape from a snare that had been set before they were even born. The terrible truth. The Sovereign's pride shuddered as it was pulled alongside the human vessel, now identified as the Persistence. Docking clamps extended from the alien ship, not the crude mechanical grapples Vextor expected, but tendrils of light that phased through their hull as if it weren't there. Hull breach on all decks, Krentak reported, then paused. No, wait. The hull is intact, but we're being merged somehow. Our molecular structure is being interwoven with theirs. Impossible. Vextor breathed, watching as sections of the bridge began to flicker between Krellian architecture and something utterly alien. Walls became transparent, revealing corridors that extended infinitely in directions that shouldn't exist. A figure materialized in the center of the bridge. A hologram, but one so perfect it might as well have been solid. It appeared human at first glance, wearing a simple military uniform. But its eyes held depths that seemed to look through time itself. Commander Vextor, the figure said, its voice carrying harmonics that resonated in frequencies the Krellians couldn't fully perceive. I am Temporal Admiral Chen, though that rank won't exist for another 37 years. Welcome to the Persistence, humanity's first successful temporal defense platform. What have you done to my ship? Vextor demanded, trying to maintain his composure as reality warped around him. Admiral Chen smiled sadly. Nothing that hasn't already happened. That's the beauty of temporal warfare, Commander. The battle was over before it began. You lost the moment you decided to scan us. Trelvar stumbled forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. The energy patterns, the spatial distortions. You've weaponized time itself. Not weaponized, Chen corrected. Defensive utilization only. Humanity learned early that in a universe full of technologically superior species, conventional warfare was suicide. So we took a different path. The bridge walls became fully transparent, revealing the impossible interior of the Persistence. Krellian crew members could see themselves in other parts of the ship, not duplicates, but the same individuals existing in multiple time streams simultaneously. Your empire discovers us in 57 years, Chen continued. You attack without provocation, seeking to add our worlds to your domain. The war lasts 3 days. Humanity loses. Completely. Vextor straightened, confusion evident in his posture. Then how? Because losing taught us what we needed to know. We couldn't win in the present, so we chose not to fight there. Instead, we built ships like the Persistence, vessels that exist outside linear time, designed to prevent the conflicts that would destroy us. Zakhar's tentacles writhed in distress as understanding dawned. The battle damage on your hull. It's from our weapons. Weapons we haven't even developed yet. Correct. The Persistence has already fought your fleet. We'll fight them. Is fighting them now, in a sense. Time is complicated when you're using it as armor. But that's a paradox. Trelvar protested. If you prevent the war, then you never learn to build these ships, which means the war happens, which means you're beginning to understand. Chen interrupted. The paradox is the defense. Your own logic systems are already failing trying to process it. Your fleet's tactical computers will shut down rather than accept the impossibility. And your empire. The hologram gestured, and the view screen showed star charts, not as they were, but as they would be. The vast Krellian empire, spanning thousands of systems, flickered and faded like a dying ember. Your empire ceases to exist the moment you understand what you're seeing. Not through violence or conquest, but through a simple mathematical impossibility. You can't maintain an interstellar civilization when your own timeline becomes uncertain. Vextor staggered, his forearms grasping for stability that no longer existed. You're lying. This is all an elaborate deception. Is it? Chen asked. Check your records, Commander. How long has your empire existed? Krentak moved to the historical database, then froze. I can't access it. The data is there, but it's shifting. Our founding date keeps changing. First, it's 3,000 years ago, then 300, then we haven't been founded yet. The Persistence doesn't just defend humanity, Chen explained. It creates a temporal bubble around any threat. The more advanced the threat, the more it tries to understand us, the more tangled it becomes in its own timeline. You wanted our secrets, Commander. Now you have them. And they're unmaking you. Panic spread through the bridge as more systems failed, not through damage, but through logical impossibility. The navigation computer couldn't plot a course to a homeworld that might not exist. The communication array couldn't contact a fleet that was simultaneously victorious and never built. Please, Vextor pleaded, his imperial arrogance crumbling. How do we escape this? Chen's expression softened with something almost like pity. You don't. That's the point. But if it's any consolation, you won't suffer. From your perspective, this conversation has already ended. Is ending now. Will never have happened. You're becoming unstuck in time, Commander. Soon, you'll exist in all moments simultaneously, past, present, and future. That's madness. No, Chen corrected. That's mercy. The alternative would be to let you remember what you've lost. Better to become part of the paradox than to observe it from outside. The bridge began to fracture, not physically, but temporally. Vextor could see himself at different ages, as a young officer eager for glory, as an academy cadet dreaming of the stars, as an elderly veteran questioning everything he'd fought for. All versions looked back at him with dawning horror. "We never stood a chance," he whispered. "No species does once they choose aggression against humanity." Chen confirmed. "We can't win wars, so we prevent them. We can't match your technology, so we make technology itself uncertain. We can't defend against weapons that outclass us, so we ensure those weapons are never fired." The persistence pulsed with alien light, and reality itself began to unravel around the Krellian crew. They weren't dying. Death would have been simpler. They were becoming scattered across their own timelines, experiencing every moment of their existence simultaneously. The scan, Trelvar gasped, his form flickering between states. It wasn't just reading our ship. It was reading our entire civilization's timeline, learning every moment of our history so it could make it never happen. Chen finished. "Humanity's greatest weapons aren't guns or bombs, Commander. They're paradoxes. We've seeded them throughout time, waiting for aggressive species to trigger them. The persistence is just one of many." As the last coherent thought faded from Vextor's mind, scattered across centuries of might-have-beens, he heard Chen's final words. "We call them temporal minds. And you've just stepped on one. Don't worry, you won't remember any of this. In fact, you were never here at all. The Krellian Empire's greatest expedition becomes its most impossible memory. You discovered humanity's ultimate defense. We make our enemies defeat themselves before the battle even begins." The sovereign's pride flickered once, twice, then vanished, not destroyed, but never built. The Krellian Empire's timeline collapsed into quantum uncertainty, becoming a cautionary tale that no species would ever remember. The persistence drifted on through the void, patient and eternal, waiting for the next curious commander to make the same fatal mistake, trying to steal secrets from a species that had turned time itself into a shield. In the end, humanity didn't need to win wars. They just needed to ensure those wars never happened at all. And somewhere, somewhen, Temporal Admiral Chen smiled sadly, knowing that another threat had been neutralized without a single shot fired. The perfect defense was one that erased the need for defense at all. The stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that an entire civilization had just become a possibility rather than a certainty, and humanity's guardian angels, ships that existed outside time, continued their eternal vigil, waiting for the next species to learn why humans named their vessels things like persistence, inevitability, and paradox. The war was over. It had never begun. It would always be beginning and ending, trapped in an eternal loop that protected Earth without violence. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy: peace through impossibility, safety through confusion, and survival through the simple act of making their enemies question whether they existed at all. The persistence sailed on, into forever.